Hey everybody, good to be back with you. So today I thought we would talk about the composite moon in a square to Pluto. I thought I had this video. I'm kind of surprised that I don't. I guess I do have the opposition and the conjunction, not quite the square yet. So here we go. So when we have this particular square in a composite chart, it's showing tension between the intimacy and the vulnerability and the unconscious. On the one hand, that's the moon, and the other part of one's unconscious, and changes or control. That's where the tension lies. So there's an extreme amount of emotional interaction when this particular square occurs. The intensity of the bond is overwhelming. The amount of emotion is very much related to the promise of being able to heal past traumas. There is a ton of psychology that is wrapped up in this square. Past hurts, what's buried, repressed traits, whatever plutonic contents lie inside your vault are worked on and often worked out when this square is present in a composite chart. So we are constantly operating on each other's psyche. The amount of Pluto stuff or 8th house stuff that two people have, that's very important to look at when you see this particular square. So check the natal charts. People who are working out a lot of Plutonic mythology salivate over this square, or the opposition or the conjunction. But this square is particularly tasty to those who need to heal. It's not pretty how this healing occurs, and most people do not stay together with this square in a composite chart. The amount and the depth of the emotional evisceration with this square cannot be understated. You will meet your monsters. This can bring a great deal of self-awareness, and it can also bring great personal evil. The evil comes from mishandling the strong involvement, this intense attachment that we feel overwhelmed by. If we both are giving in to our jealousy demons, then we are going to descend into a painful, fearful experience. With this square present, fear breeds more fear. The two people are emotionally addicted with this particular square in a composite chart. And this then brings a fear of that addiction ending, a fear of endings, a terrible fear of the loss of the intensity, a loss of the bond, a loss of the attachment. And a fear of loss becomes the basis of all that they do to each other. So real love is not present. It's just a plutonic grasping, this passion and this fear. The two people have got to risk the loss of the relationship if they are ever going to have any chance that the relationship will last or be able to build trust. We must let each other live. If the two people cannot learn to hold each other lightly and accept whatever consequences that brings, then they will destroy each other, and they don't realize that they're doing it. The ends seem to justify the means, and whatever the two must do to keep each other is justified by the amount of fear of the loss that both people feel. It's the attachment that's really driving that fear. And with the square present, often the partners fail to fulfill the other person's needs because we'll see those needs as a threat to the ability to secure the relationship or keep control of the relationship. And often the houses are going to show you where the fear is more specifically located, what areas of life that's falling into. So there's a fear of real intimacy because we will have to give up our fears of loss to get there. We will both have to confront our fears before we can really love each other in a way that meets each other's real needs. And most couples with this square in the composite chart, they don't get to this point. This square is usually found in relationships that last months rather than years. The amount of psychological stuff that comes up is usually so fierce that both people burn out. It's extremely exhausting to go through this. It's like every plutonic thing we had in us comes out to rear its head, and it is shocking what we can find out about ourselves, what we can be driven to, the extremes that we can go to. It's not an aspect that is generally attractive to people who don't have some psychological stuff to work out. Most people who aren't needing an encounter with their dark side will not pick up a relationship that has this square in it. Those who do need some mining for buried treasure are going to be intensely drawn to this experience. So it's very, very hard to turn away from a relationship that has this particular square if you are ripe for it. And it's probably going to play out. The promise of purging is so attractive that you can't talk somebody out of pursuing a relationship that has this particular aspect if they need to be exposed. And that's what this square will bring, self-exposure. How we react to that exposure will really determine how we behave in the relationship. If we take responsibility for the deep desires that are stimulated by each other, then we have a chance to master the monsters that we will bring out in each other. But the two people must consciously decide to control their worst instincts and their fears and their knee-jerk reactions that are stemming from insecurity and fear. And this conscious decision usually comes after they've acknowledged that they have been behaving unconsciously, that they have been driven by fears of loss or trauma, fears that come up from the past, things that needed to be healed. And when this square is present, we must not impose anything on each other. The partners react badly when they do try to meet each other's needs because there's a pattern of resentment that builds up, and it keeps each other from accepting genuine generosity, a genuine extending of oneself. We can come to see the other person as just trying to meet or get what's good for them. So we have to be willing to allow each other to change without seeing something nefarious in it or manipulative in it or selfish in it. And after the resentment kicks in, we tend to only ascribe bad motives to each other's actions. when the square is present. And we have to be willing to let the other person show up as they are. We have to learn to risk the loss of the relationship because we are allowing the person to be free of our Pluto. And then we can have real love. We can have deep, deep intimacy if we work for it. Not a fear and intensity disguised as love, but a deep, abiding intimacy that really comes from trust in ourselves and mutual healing. So I hope this brought some light to what can be often a very difficult aspect. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com, other social media, Facebook, Instagram, at Truth and Aspect Astrology. I am mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts. So look me up for that. And I also have a subscriber option on my website where I put out unique videos, subscriber question and answer videos. We have a private Facebook group that we meet in, and there's all kinds of exclusive teaching videos and extra content over there. So if you're interested in more content, check me out over there. And I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye.